Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes podcast. I'm Travis,
And I'm Patrick.
and we got some special guests today, gentlemen.
And I'm funky. Yes, I'm Niall McGowan.
And I'm Bubbawheat.
Welcome, gentlemen. Nothing like talking about adolescent young women with having four white guys on the podcast. So,
To be fair, though, the film was made by like two significantly older white men as well. So
I kind of got that vibe as I watched it. So this is appropriate. Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Travis. And Travis and Patrick. We'll get into it, but like Ghost World is a significant film for me in my life. So
Okay.
I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk about it.
Very cool. Let's talk about that then. Your histories with the movie for both of you. Because Niall, like this was one of those movies that you picked, way back when, like probably one of the first times I sent you the list. Like you picked this one, and it would have been years, away from when we were starting. Bubba, you were more of a recent. I think you found out we were talking about it, and we're like, hey, if I can get in on this, let me know. So.
Yeah, I think I also did whenever I first found your podcast and you were, a couple years in. I sent you an email and sent a list of movies that I wanted to be on. And so, I think I had a few obscure ones like Gen 13
Right.
and I believe I also had this one on that list too.
Okay. Well, yeah. So talk about your history.
Yep. Do you want to go first, Bubbawheat?
Sure. I mean, I don't have like a super personal history, but I started with my superhero movie blog, Flight Size Movie Nights, and so I was just going through all the superhero and comic book movies, kind of like you are, although I was at a much faster pace. I did I did 100 movies in that first year,
Jeez.
and then over the next 9 years, I made it up to about 500, over 500 movies. And I know I must have gotten to this one within the first couple years or so. And I didn't know anything about it except it was on my list. And then I watched it. And the first time I really liked it, but I had a couple issues with it. And then I thought it was a little heavy-handed. And then I think like a year or two later, I was a part of the LAM, the large association of movie blogs, and they have their own podcast, the Lambcast, and every month they have a movie of the month where all the podcast members can submit a movie, any movie they want for any reason to put forward for the movie of the month, and then they usually get, the 5 to 8 submissions somewhere around there and they put a poll up and by sheer random happenstance, me and somebody else both put forward Ghost World for the same month. And that was the one that ended up winning. And so we got to host that movie of the month segment for that month. And then that discussion really kind of made me like the movie even more. And it's, and kind of since then I've put it as like, my top 5 comic book films.
Oh, wow.
It's so weird because it's one that people almost forget is a comic book movie because comic book movie in people's minds is like superhero.
Yeah.
Whereas, or like we did previously, like Josie and the Pussycats or something like that. And then this is like, no, this is like almost like a comic in like its other form entirely, like the underground comic scene.
Right.
Which was, such a thriving industry in itself, but it's very, very under the radar and stuff. It's still out there today. It's just like in different forms, constantly mutating and staying hidden in the darkness. Or some people will say that's where it belongs, but no, I was I was 14 when this came out, and I was at the time a sort of bespeckled Daria fan loner who liked weird movies and just spent most of my weekends holed up by myself or maybe like my one or two other friends.
Yeah.
And so when I was really into my like severe, pretentious movie kind of phase, And so I remember I remember the build up to this coming out, because just seeing the imagery of that, I'm like, oh yeah, in a couple of months time, this thing's coming. And back then, didn't have an access to ready access to the internet, or like on YouTube just wasn't a thing, so I couldn't just look up the trailer or anything like that. So it was just going by the imagery of Thora Birch in particular, and just been like, I want to see this, whatever this is. This looks incredible. And then when it landed, it was just like, yeah, this is everything I wanted it to be. Like it really, like it, and I watched it multiple times when I was a teenager, and then it stayed with me. Like it's one of those things, like as you get older, your perspective on the entire thing changes. Like, you go from your perspective on the entire film, and also on Enid as a character in particular. I went from being like, she's a goddess, and I absolutely I relate to her so much.
Sure.
I just want to be her, and I want, like, she's so cool, and like now to being like, oh, she's such a kid, isn't she? Like she just like, you come out the other side, it's like, I really hope you're okay, sweetie. Like I hope you get out of there. Like I hope you find your way. And it's and then you, like, as I was saying, you guys in the green room before we started recording, I'm now very much out of the Enid phase and into the I'm not quite as old as Buscemi when he made the movie, but I'm in the Seymour like era of like, you're dangerous. You're dangerously skewing that line, man.
Sure.
And yeah, it really, really stayed with me. Absolutely loved it. And then every time I go back to it, I keep thinking like, oh, it's going to have dated, or I'll find some immensely, because I've seen articles pop up about it, like complaining from like journalists who are much, much younger. And so they will take like really drastic offense to certain plot points and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah, but there's nuance to all that. And it's like, it still is like, no, it just stands well. It's like, it's very much of its time. I don't know if you wouldn't make the same film in a post YouTube era, in a post like internet social media era. It just couldn't happen the way it is. But it's I think like, yeah, it matures along with you as a viewer, and like I still think it's just a spectacular piece of work. Like I would say it is one of the great comic book movies. It's got several of the great comic book movie performances in it too. Like it's just such a shame. In many ways, it's a shame that like so many of the people involved with it, not all bar several massive exceptions such as Steve Buscemi or that lady who plays her friend. I can't remember what you call her, but like Charlotte something. Like I think
real obscure.
She pops up, I think, in a couple of things afterwards. But like everyone else, kind of like Terry Zwigoff, just like virtually disappears off the scene entirely, like within a few years. Daniel Clowes is just back in his basement making Daniel Clowes stuff. Brad Renfro, of course, like we'll look at a lot, and then Thora Birch herself, who's just like her legacy is just wild now. But she's just but because of that though, she still remains in my mind as like, she hasn't matured and doing other parts. She's just like, no, that's just Enid. Like that's what to some people she'll be like, oh, American Beauty lady, but then he's like, no, she's that part, And I guess other people will be like, "Oh yeah, Hocus Pocus" or whatever. But to me, she was always this lady. But yeah. So very, very happy to. I can remember, still remembering the day picking up the VHS, because we couldn't see this in the cinema. It wouldn't have come to the cinema near my town. I had to wait for the VHS release. So I remember going and getting the old clunky cassette and putting it on late in a Friday evening as a teenager, which seems like something Enid and Becca would have done themselves back in the day. Sitting watching a sort of little weirdo quasi underground movie from the American indie scene, But yeah.
Well, very cool. I imagine Patrick and I will have very similar histories with this. Patrick, what's your story?
Well, I saw it last week.
Right.
This came out at like a weird time because I was in college, and then 9/11 happened, so it's like it would have not been on my radar whatsoever.
Yeah,
I've heard about it randomly here and there, but I probably went into this as blind as you could go into anything. Like, had no idea Scarlett Johansson was in this. Had no idea what I was getting into.
Well, it's so weird, but if you were growing up a fan of it, because you're just like, why is she the one who's taken off? Like, it was bizarre at the time to be like, why does everyone keep talking about Becca? Like, why does everyone give a crap about her?
Yeah, it was surprising to see how little time she had with this movie once it got going. I was expecting it to be the duo.
Yeah, and I believe, like, I'm not familiar with the comic, but apparently in the comic it is more of a duo, and Becca has a larger role. But
I have, like, once I got to university and had a student loan to throw around, I did pick up the comic, and that is it's very similar, but it's also very different. And like, yeah, Becca's a much more significant character throughout the entire thing. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I could see what you were talking about earlier, where I would have likely identified with Enid and Rebecca a bit more. So coming into this as a Buscemi, a Seymour, this was a bit of a gut kick, I will say. So I kind of missed out on getting to enjoy the younger perspective. I could kind of imagine it at the very least, but I didn't have that same identifying
connection
feeling.
Yeah.
So we're definitely coming in at different perspectives, I think. So this will be interesting.
Yeah.
What about you, Travis?
I vaguely remember, like, I connect this movie with college and my school. It was a 2 years associates graphic design sort of situation, and so it was very like, wiffle ball. It was very easy, not easy, but we definitely had some teachers who were like, we're gonna watch a movie today. Like, it's that kind of thing. And so I connect this movie with, we watched half of it or maybe half of it one day in one of my college classes. And I don't think we didn't finish the movie, and I never went to, revisit it. So I had only partially seen, the first half of this movie, and that's where it laid for 24 years or whatever. So yeah, really just revisited it, or came to it last week, and then earlier this week to sort of watch it. And it's like Patrick said, like, I'm in the Seymour phase, and so watching the movie, it was very like frustrating. The Enid character, just really, we'll get into all
just
of it.
Like, get out of the way, Thora Birch. This is a Buscemi movie over here.
Yeah. Like, why is this kid ruining this poignant story about Seymour?
Could have spent more time with the record collection.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, sounds like the two of us kind of have sort of experiences.
Team Seymour, Team Enid.
So. Yeah. But yeah.
But what was your verdict on in terms of quality? Like, did you enjoy it? Well, it's hard to know if you can. Well, the thing is, I did really enjoy it when I watched it, and then as it gets older, the more melancholy it gets. So if you're coming to it as a full formed guy in your 40s, you might be like, "Oh my god, it's so sad. The whole film is so depressing."
No, this bummed me out. I was like, man, because I don't know. We'll get into it, but man, it was heavy.
I mean, I went through a period where I knew people, because when I first moved over to the university, I kind of connected with the. I think one way we would call it would be kind of like alternative people and sort of the slightly underground scene, which sounds really pretentious, but it was just that was just the kind of people we gravitated towards each other, and they all loved Ghost World, but they loved it in a way of I don't know if quite then if they were, because they were still in their early 20s and stuff too, so I don't know if they were they just loved the imagery and the clothes and all the knickknacks that Enid has. And there used to be my friend Kitty owned a shop which sold weird old vintage clothes, and you'd come in and she'd just have the Ghost World soundtrack blasting. So you go in that Indian song that opens the beginning, I know the back of my hand. It's so much. And then I think I was kind of very much the same at the time, and then now it's just as you get older, you realize it's actually a really it's I think it's very accurately capturing a feeling from a certain period in people's lives.
Yeah,
but it's a period that people kind of want to forget because it's so it's kind of a bummer, in the wind vibe about the whole that whole period of your life that you're I don't want to think about that. I want to move on from that, and now be the happy adult and stuff, but.
It just occurred to me that the 2000s equivalent of this movie is Juno.
Oh yeah,
kind of has that
Lady Bird, the Saoirse Ronan, Greta Gerwig movies, kind of got a vibe.
So maybe every 10 years we get this sort of movie. So
you need was it Down and Out in Beverly Hills was kind of like that back in the 90s too. It comes in different forms every 10 years. You need the melancholy teenage girl movie. The Edge of Seven, that one was Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah.
There's also the Diary of a Teenage Girl.
Oh yeah. That one's because that's a proper. That was an underground comic as well, I think. So maybe that might be the best shout actually.
Yeah.
Too. But Also, for Bell Powell, you haven't seen much of her either. Sense too. So yeah.
For some reason, like seeing the opening credits to this and seeing Daniel Clowes' name, Niall, why do I connect that with you and Batman? What is his connection to? Does he have a Batman connection?
No, I mean, beyond like the kind of Catwoman-ish kind of mask that Enid wears at one point. I think maybe me and John talk about like Daniel Clowes quite a bit.
I was thinking maybe he did a rewrite on Batman Returns. There was
that's Dan Waters.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the guy who wrote Heathers.
Yeah. For some reason, I went through his IMDb and I didn't see any connection, but I was like, I know that those two guys have talked about Daniel Clowes, and I've heard you talk about him in some, somewhere. I feel like, but maybe I'm mixing it up with.
Yeah, because I've tried to delve into because Daniel Clowes is like, yeah, he's proper like old school, like down like no budget, like no budget, no audience underground comic and stuff. Well, actually, that's not fair too. I'm sure because you get those reprints of 8-Ball, like it was his underground kind of comic zine he made. And I think it was a whole bunch of random. He really focuses on sort of the weird and the grotesque within normal society, which you can see reflected in Ghost World. Because so like all the stuff with like the Satanists and Weird Al and all these people is like, well, this is the world, but also he just tends to focus on, oh, look how many oddities there are just potted around everywhere. But sometimes his stuff gets very, very cerebral. Like was it like a velvet glove wrapped in iron or something like that? That was one of the big story. You're getting into that thinking, oh, it's going to be like a new Ghost World. And it's like, no, man. It's like a really surrealist, like body horror trip and stuff like that. So, but I do love his presence, but he does have a very kind of familiar deadpan kind of delivery to a lot of stuff. So again, like it feels like, there's a definite connection to like a Daria Morgendorffer, in that animation style drifting into the Dan Clowes, underground comic scene, and then the delivery of a lot of the stuff in this movie as well.
Was the comic for Ghost World like sort of a one and done story, or was it issue by issue long form?
It was in 8-Ball, and it was I think there was like 8 issues, but it was like it doesn't have there's no Seymour. Like he doesn't. There's a guy in it called like Bob Skeets, who's kind of the Seymour character, but he's in it very briefly. There is the thing of them setting up the guy with like who ran the personals ad. That's in there, but then they take that, and then I think because Terry Zwigoff himself has said that he basically is Seymour, so he kind of used it like him and Daniel Clowes kind of used him as a jumping board to be like, well, let's give it more of a narrative structure because most of it's just like them drifting.
I felt like as I watched it, I kind of wondered, they show us the Satanists, perfect example. Like, I thought, I bet in the comic that probably goes somewhere. Like there's probably more to that. And it's like, as I watched this, there's so many little weird characters that pop up. And I thought there's probably more to them. The neo-Nazi guy who works at the magazine store who sells her VHS tapes or whatever. Like he's probably a bigger character in the comics, and like throughout the movie, it just felt like I bet the book probably spotlights all these people, and we're just getting like a little hint of them, throughout the movie. So
not as much as you'd think though. They do like the Satanists do pop up, but it's literally for like Enid and Rebecca see them in like the supermarket, and then they're like, oh, we have to see what they're buying. And they kind of like, and then at one point Becca finds Enid just like convulsing laughing, by like a in the freezer section, and it just turns out that's because they're buying Lunchables. And she just thinks it's hilarious. And it's just, and then that's the last you see of the Satanists.
So very much, so not as much as I think.
Yeah, and then the guy, I think it's Pat Healy playing that guy who kind of popped up in a couple of things, but like I think his name's like Johnny Apeshit or something, and he pops up a couple of times, but he's just like like right wing edgelord asshole, that kind of Again, one of the characters who seems to be like, no, you still get that around, like you know people like this. You might not know them personally, but you've encountered this kind of guy.
He'd be thriving now.
Yes.
There's always a little clip of him. I used to send to John. I still do send it to John quite frequently, but like, because John's big punk guy. And like anytime there's any kind of punk thing, I always just send a little clip of him going, "Oh, punk!" It's like the little like when Enid like throws the rolled up, $5 at him.
Yeah.
But and then again years later, but like there's so many like random little cameos in there. I just didn't catch the freaking David Cross and
sure,
Pat Healy, and then what was the lady from Young Frankenstein?
Terry Garr. Yeah,
Terry Garr.
Yeah.
I was just like sitting there going, like, I know her face, and it's freaking Terry Garr.
Well, Bob Balaban as the dad, like he's in so many things. He's a great character actor, and just playing very meek, sort of guy as her dad. He's fun in this.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like, so I guess I don't know if you want like any kind of structure to this, but like this, it was only this time I really realized some of the things going on in there, like that I just realized like, oh, there actually is hidden meaning behind that, because Bob Balaban pops up very briefly as her dad. He's not really much of a presence in Enid's life.
Yeah,
he seems very passive, and he just sort of lets her do whatever she wants. And even when she's like sitting crying her eyes out, he comes in and he's like, "Oh, is everything okay?"
Yeah.
Oh, and he just moves on to the next subject, like he's uncomfortable to talk to her about it. And then within the art class, they have that little spoof short that the art teachers made, Alana Douglas, and it's the whole mirror, father, mirror. And like for years, I was always using that as like the classic example of pretentious ass art movies. But then you see that, so in Seymour, though, she does have a much older male figure who kind of becomes like a weird father figure to her.
Sure.
And then Ina's whole thing is about sort of like rejecting, having to move on and move into adult life, which, she sees as being like becoming mediocre, because you kind of see what's happening to Becca. She just becomes more of like a normal person as it goes on. So she like fears seeing herself mirrored on her own father, but then she is also mirrored in Seymour. So it's like mirror, father, mirror. And it's like, oh, that's like, there you go. that might be what they're kind of dripping in there and stuff as well. And I never really caught that the first, like, throughout all those years, I just thought that was like, maybe Terry Zwigoff saw a mirror, father, mirror thing. He literally ripped it from like, his real life. But now you're like, no, there actually is a statement in there within the broader themes of the film and stuff as well. So
I want to at least because we do have to kind of go through this a little quickly. So I do want to like set up kind of what is, just at least the setup. Like we meet them at their high school graduation, and she finds out after the graduation, like, oh, I didn't graduate, I have to take an art class, which I don't quite know how that works. Like, how do you find out in the graduation that, you didn't graduate?
You literally have just left the school and actually, no, there's like a little, like the hook.
Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in.
Yeah. If this was real life, it would have been like economics or something.
Yeah.
Not art.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't thought about this, but I actually had a similar situation. And like, I mean, it was, associate college. So it wasn't, it wasn't like high school, and, I didn't bother with graduation. But after I finished my 2 years in associates in, community college, I thought that I did the math right, but I was 3 credits short, and I had to take a film class.
Oh man! So just real life, just a perfect example.
Well, that's the thing that you wonder, like, throughout the senior year, though, like, who was Enid's art teacher then? Why wasn't there like, again,
or where was the guidance counselor? That's a failure of guidance counseling if you've not letting your kids know, like, hey, you need to do this. You need to complete this before you graduate.
Yeah. And also at no point someone going, well, this girl is clearly a talented artist.
Yeah.
She clearly has an interest in this.
Yeah.
How is that the class she's failing? Like, it's insane.
Unless
no one
unless this art class isn't one that's hosted at this school campus. If it's like because Enid should have been in art class throughout her high school career, but it seems like the art teacher has no clue, her history, who she is. So I don't know, but
again, in a larger theme though, Travis, like a lack of guidance. Is that not what the whole film's about? Like, she doesn't have any guidance.
Yeah,
she
it's
doesn't know
possible.
what she's doing.
Yeah.
It's Ghost World. Everyone's just going through the motions.
Yeah. They have a big conversation. Like, again, they have this post-graduation like dance, which I don't think is a thing over here. Maybe it seems to be set in California, so maybe it's a thing over there. But so they go to this, you know, it's essentially a homecoming kind of dance, and they make a big deal about like we're never going to see any of these people ever again, and that is kind of the way it works for the most part. It's like as soon as you're out of high school, you drift apart from a lot of the people you see every day. So I did like that sort of that they call that out, and just them focusing on like this one kid eating cake is like I'm never going to see him again.
Yeah. I also love too like little details, like as we come into that scene, they're literally swaying in perfect unison in the back, the cameras to their backs.
Yeah.
And then the last time we see them, we're kind of in a similar setup, but it's just Becca just completely drifts away from Enid, and they're just not in sync at all anymore. It's a proper just like visual cue of like that's visual bookends for seeing those two characters together.
Yeah.
And
I like
also like the little subtle thing too that if you look around, you see the high school principal. He pops up in the sex shop.
Okay.
I missed that. See him in the background. It's like, oh, there he is.
Nice. Okay. Huh. I like how firmly they establish, in that dance or whatever. We instantly find out, what their plan is post high school. It's like, oh, they're going to move in together. They're not going to college. And then when that guy approaches Becca, Enid pops in and say, "Oh, we're not going to college." And you could tell that there's like, some like there's a wedge that starts there, like because Enid has a very clear idea of their post high school sort of life, and Becca does as well, and then that wedge gets bigger and bigger, throughout the movie. So I like that it's kind of there. We first see it, and it's it's subtle, but
yeah. And I get the impression that Enid is, at least in the movie version, that Enid is kind of the alpha of their relationship. She's the one in charge, and then as after graduation, Becca is the one that grows up, and she gets the job, she gets the apartment, and Enid is still stuck in Arrested Development.
Big time.
It's also like a recurring thing throughout too, that like it's always people of their age always engage with Becca more. Like they'll like ignore that Enid's even there.
Right.
The point where she's like, I'm standing right here and stuff. You could take that to like Becca being like more attractive, or it could be like no, she's just more willing to engage with people, whereas Enid just probably always had like a completely closed off wall to her and everyone around her and stuff.
Yeah, I felt like Enid was a combination of, like you said, Daria and Janine Garofalo characters. It was just it almost felt like satire at a point.
Kind of,
like a Gen X kind of girl that's too cool for the room.
Yeah, especially whenever she's trying to get a job, kind of in the middle of the movie, and which I do love those scenes, especially with her working in the movie theater. It's like anybody that's worked any customer facing job, it's like they wish they could act like Enid does.
The thing about Enid is that like in so many ways she's still such a child, and she's so immature. But a lot of the things she points out are still quite accurate. Like when she points out bullshit about the things, they're like, no, she's completely correct about that, But it includes like in the cinema scene with the whole like, here's your popcorn coated in delicious yellow chemical sludge.
Yeah.
It's like, that's that is what that is. You're not getting real butter on top of that thing. Like it's but I think in recent years too, because I've done like during COVID, Daria was my like comfort rewatch.
Right.
It was, like, something safe and familiar. And then watching this again, I can see like, they're Enid and Daria do have similarities. And Janine Garofalo for sure, like in some ways, like if Enid was more engaged with the world, she might go on to be a Janine Garofalo. But I think she's still too like cut off from people to like, because Janine Garofalo's like engaging with the New York scene and talking about current events and stuff. But like I did note that I think Enid and Becca are like a lot more cruel than Daria and Jane, because Daria was very like, I remember there's like an episode where for some reason they're out selling like Girl Scout cookies, like a Girl Scout breaks her leg, and then Daria gets kind of forced into having to do the rounds basically, and then Jane comes along because it's funny. And then I think they meet like a really morbidly obese lady who like wants like loads of boxes, and they're like, and she's like really having trouble breathing, and they're like, no, we're not going to sell these to you. Like we can't do that.
Yeah.
And then she like, really, says she's going to bring a complaint, and et cetera, et cetera. But like that's Daria and Jane would do that. Enid and Rebecca would like organize a date to go watch the lady.
Yeah.
Like they have a much more like vindictive kind of like mockery about everything around them. Whereas Daria is very like, in that show, she's right about the people around her, but she's got more of like a kind of arched eyebrow and won't attack unless people come to her first.
Yeah.
Whereas Enid and Becca are very much like, let's go and take the piss out of everyone around
Sure.
us at every given moment, which is perfectly capitalized in the whole like the setup of Seymour, because that's an incredibly cruel act to do to anybody.
Enid is kind of, like the Randall of
well, she's totally a Randall,
she's like a female version of Randall.
It struck me as like when we first meet them, not first meet them, but they show up to this cafe together. They kind of make fun of the Satanist couple. She says we should follow them, and Becca says we should totally do that, and then they do. And it seemed like a very throwaway, like, oh, we should follow them. Oh yeah, totally. And then not do it. That seems very like in that thing of like, just we talk about things, but we don't follow through. Where here we see like they do follow through. They will, they are bored enough, I guess, that they will spend time following these two people. And of course that leads them to the other cafe that they spent some time in. And then that leads them to, I think, is that where they see the personal ad, and then, or I don't remember where they, I guess but regardless, like the idea of them, one saying we should do that, and then Becca saying we should totally do that, and then they actually follow through. Like I thought that was interesting, because like in real life, I don't know, people aren't, going to this effort to kind of fuck with people, but yeah, I mean,
it shows you like how adrift, like it's like the film's plot line is so adrift as well. It's just like, we're just gonna go and follow this for a bit, see where that story leads. And that's their lives are now. Like Becca's trying to enforce the thing of like, tomorrow we need to do this, and tomorrow we need to have this done by this date. And then Enid's just like, hey, let's go and just wander after these people and see what they're like. Her eye is still drawn again to Becca's trying to buy in. And Enid's very much like, I'm fascinated by these weirdos. Like they're, as she says, there are people. So she wants like, I have to go with them. Whereas, and there's just really beautiful things in that, like in the costuming, that like they start off so similar, and then by the end scene, Becca looks like she looks like an adult.
Really, she
really
grows up in this movie, and Enid, like Bubbawheat, like you said, a very Arrested Development sort of thing, which, it's typical, I think, with young people. I mean, we all probably experienced a similar, sort of thing.
Oh, definitely,
in different ways.
Yeah. But also, I feel like now it's kind of like it's in this modern era where things are so nostalgia based and stuff like that. The kind of concept of Enid not been able to sort of let go of her teenage years and like the person she was as a teenager is like, as we know now, like, there's a Turtles 30th anniversary, screening happening. We're all, let's go to that.
Yeah.
Everything is that. Just yesterday, I bought for 25 quid, a figure of Jim Carrey's the Riddler in that silver suit he wears at the end, because I was like, oh, it's so cool. But like, it's just like, it's a thing I grew up on. Like, it's Batman Forever Good. No, not really. But like, isn't the figure cool?
Right.
And it's still a little. It's like it's feeding the inner child and stuff like that. Whereas like, Becca wouldn't buy that. That'd be a waste of money and stuff. But there's so many people out there who will like engage in little things like that.
Yeah.
That I feel like in Ghost World in 2025 would be a very different sort of is any it's also a thing too I find in like the 40-year-old version, where like the message of that is the end is like, oh, Carell has to throw away all that stuff and just move on, and but nowadays I feel like there'll be so many more people will be like, well, why does he have to, like, why,
why does he have to change?
So I think there's a little bit of there's been a bit of a cultural shift, I think, since those movies came out, which is like, I want like like I don't want them to do a sequel to this by any means, but I would be curious of like what the spin would be.
Yeah. They'd be the
yeah.
parents, and then they'd have kids who are rebelling and or whatever.
Or you'd hope it'd be like Enid would be like the cool aunt who's like, you know, but then you find out no, she's like the sad, like she's the Seymour. Like she has become Seymour, you know.
She had Seymour's baby, and that's the sequel.
Oh man.
So strange too that like around this time, and I, you know, nothing but praise for Steve Buscemi because he's just like one of the great character actors. But like I remember like this came out and I have him sleeping with like ostensibly like a teenage girl, like she's, what, 18 or whatever, I guess, if not younger. I guess what, 16, 17 when you're graduating from high school.
No,
17 or 18.
No,
17 or 18, but yeah, we'll say 18.
Yeah, but around the same time, he wrote, directed, and starred in Trees Lounge, which is a movie about Steve Buscemi sleeping with a teenager. It's pretty like, you know, Ghost World's fair enough because it's like, oh, you didn't write that. But then Trees Lounge is a bit like, well, you keep coming back to this well, Buscemi. What's happening there?
Yeah.
And in what was that? Air Force? Not Air Force.
Con Air.
Con Air. There's implications that he's gonna do something to that little girl. So
yeah.
I think I always got the impression that there was only going to be good old fashioned murder. I don't think he was going to do anything too more seedier than that.
That's what I was hoping, but that everyone else was afraid of that guy. So.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, speaking of things in the culture though, at the time, did any of you guys catch that guy who comes in to Abu from Seinfeld's, you know, his convenience store? That's the guy from the By the Way music video for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like he's playing the same character.
No.
And that was because I remember that because that was I'd seen Ghost World before. I don't know if you got maybe like the Red Hot Chili Peppers weren't as big with you fellows or something because they were just everywhere in the mid 2000s to me. So.
Sure, I mean they were. You know, for me it was like the radio hits were everywhere, whatever the singles were, but I didn't delve any deeper than that, and at this point wasn't watching. Wasn't seeking out their music videos, you know.
Well, this is just in an era like when we had just got in satellite TV, so we had access to the music channels. And it was like I remember the video for the single, By the Way, is Anthony Kiedis getting into a taxi, and the taxi driver is like, "Oh my God, is that, you know, the guy from the Chili Peppers?" And kind of like abducting him for a little bit, but it's that actor playing that character.
Okay.
You go into the wiki, it's like, he's reprising the part. Like he's doing all the stuff with the nunchucks. He's got the same exact look and stuff on. And it's just such a weird choice that I guess they just saw the movie and we're like, we just want him in it, you know. But
well, and that's this guy playing Dougie. I love Dougie. I wish he was in the movie more, but I'm glad we get him. He's just a burnout, kind of guy who comes in the convenience store, hassles the owner, played by Brian George, and then interacts with Josh, played by Brad Renfro. And I like Dougie a lot. He's just a fun visual kind of character. He's sort of a cartoon character in this movie.
It's the guy who was like, well, he was Doofy in Scary Movie. I think that was his big claim to fame. But then then he's like, we saw a Doofy, but I want people to know that I'm absolutely ripped as well. So
he really is.
This is a guy that is a real person.
Yes.
Like you always have I don't want to say urban legend, but there's always like a guy that's associated to this character.
I think he is sort of the Matthew McConaughey character in Dazed and Confused. Like he's the guy who is around, everyone knows him. He might, interact with, people younger than him just to because he's still in that same place, Because
I know here there's a guy called Rockin' Rob that always had like his Firebird outside the convenience store just hanging out. And he was like, probably in his 30s, maybe late 20s, and he was just like hanging out. Tank top,
just got off of his construction job.
So this is like an actual dude.
I feel like I'm currently, because I've in the last couple of months I've switched to I'm now working in I'm in Liverpool. I'm now working in the Central Library in in the city center. And I feel like it's like an Enid and Rebecca at that age dream job because I've just got an open window to all the recurring weirdos who come
nice.
And you start to know them. You don't know their actual names, so you have to start calling them like Mr. Shiny Shoes, Mr. Encyclopedias, and stuff like that. But the amount of people now that me and my coworkers are constantly talking about, like, what's that guy's deal? What's he doing? Like, what's his life actually like? Because you just get like, it's a public service, so you just get these people who have nothing else to do with their day.
Sure. I think Niall, you should just start following them after your shift. Just find out their little adventures and then report back to us. So.
Oh, it totally should.
Yeah, I totally should do that.
It's like me coming back in like a couple of weeks, been like, okay, so then that led to me playing a prank on this guy who left a message in the Lonely Hearts column, and now I've begun this sort of a weird relationship where we're best friends all of a sudden, and I'm a little unsettled by it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
No,
he also doesn't know that it was me who was pranking him that whole time.
Oh, I think we just uncracked the sequel.
Yeah,
like midlife crisis. Instead of transitioning from childhood to adulthood, we got a midlife crisis where Niles is like going to fall in love with a 65, 70-year-old lady that has an extensive plate collection of cats. And I think we've unlocked it. So get to work.
Well, here's a question for you fellas, like particularly you, like Patrick and Travis and like Bubbawheat. I know you'll probably you'll have had time to ruminate on it more. But what do you actually interpret the title of Ghost World to mean? Like what do you take it as being like? Well, because in the comic too, they heavily emphasize, like, as they're walking around, the words Ghost World are just written on the walls and stuff.
Yeah, I kind of took it, just the vibe of the place is like, just especially the opening credits, is just people, kind of ghosting their way through this world and like kind of on autopilot almost.
yeah, that's
I think I have a similar sort of take. Like they're in the world, but they're not really part of the world. And at this age, like they aren't, at least Enid isn't, she's not really contributing anything. She's just there.
They like that opening scenes, all the kind of ghostly pale blue lights coming from people's windows, and they're just sitting zombified. But Enid's like full of color, and she seems really alive in that. So yeah, that's a potentially good interpretation. Like Bubbawheat, what do you think? Ghost World means?
I'm right along there with them. That's the most of the adults of the world are just dead and just dead inside, and just or maybe ghosts of their teenage selves just wandering around.
Once you reach that age, that graduation time, and become an adult, you cease to live, and you're just ghosts, walking through the world, just going through the motions and that sort of thing, I imagine.
Yeah. So my interpretation shifted over the years, where I thought, because it has such an open sort of mockery of like consumerism within the world. I know, like, Daniel Clowes and Zwigoff have said, like, we try to keep the streets as empty and focus on the storefronts as much, to see like it's just all selling you stuff and sell, etc. And then it's like, so it's open, just consumers, like empty consumerism. And then also you get things like Blues Hammer. Is like, Rebecca or Enid and Seymour really connect to like old blues music, because there's like a life and a soul to those things. Yeah. There's like a real, like, it feels like, but then Blues Hammers is just like, it's a bunch of white assholes.
Yeah.
Thinking about picking cotton and stuff. Yeah. It's like insane. So like, that's kind of like,
they're playing like a mix of rock and blues. Like it's very, mainstream blues, but then they intro themselves as, "Are you ready for some authentic blues?"
But like, to take that has been like, so the ghost world is like the sort of the empty consumerist world around them that has no general engagement. But now I interpret it more to be like, even though at the beginning, as you guys are saying there's a beautiful, like, all these people in their sort of ghostly lit rooms, and like Enid's the one who's truly alive. I think actually the ghost world is Enid's world, though, because she's moved on she's not moved on from high school. Right. Her high school life has died, and she can't move on. She's stuck in the same place, drifting, like a ghost. And everyone else is moving on to like the next stage, but she's just sort of hovering there. And I think it was only like in the recent viewing that I was like, oh, that's what the ghost world is. It's like it's her world. Like she is the titular ghost, I guess. And her and Seymour for the most part, because Seymour is like, seems to have a pretty okay job and stuff too. Yeah, it's just like, it means nothing to him, but he's just living in his own little, like, he's closed off from everyone else as well. He has no, he's just sort of drifting and like a person who's not engaging with the world.
Sure. Seymour's that kind of guy. He's checked out, but it's like he could have been content to keep living his life, for many years. But then it's like once Enid gets involved with his life, changes it completely, like, and maybe not for the better. I mean, in some ways, maybe for the better, but in some ways, probably not,
It was going for the better, though. I mean, he had a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like,
I like the idea that they meet and then Enid is his wingman. It's like, I'm going to help you, find a girlfriend, go on some dates or whatever. And
even though that kind of crashes and burns, at least from Enid's perspective, because, this Dana is someone that is, again, it's like normalcy is kind of crashing into Seymour's world, and Dana is a character that is really trying to change him and make him be more mainstream and more normal. And
he's trying to 40-year-old virgin him.
Yeah,
she's doing what happened. He's the Corral, and now he's going to drag into that.
Well, I mean, that's what he wanted when he talked about somebody just normal and somewhat attractive, and like
someone to do things
and not a total idiot or whatever he said.
Yeah,
and she's just basic average, lady that looks pretty good. I mean,
she's a nice lady.
So that's what he wanted, but apparently, a part of him still needed the weirdness of Enid.
Yeah.
I think also it's maybe a little bit of two of, because Enid does then quickly turn on her as well when she realizes like, oh, she's becoming very involved in your life, and now you're not my Seymour anymore, and she's already lost Becca, so it's like, oh boy, I got it. There's almost a little bit of like,
this is where I turned on Enid.
Yeah.
Towards the end, it does get a bit like you can empathize with her for so long, but then she does have things are going well for her friend. And then things are going well for her too. With like, oh, art school could just open up for you now.
Yeah.
And
she did that. And,
she goes in the complete, like the fact she doesn't even go to the exhibition is just like, it's just self-sabotage where you're like, no, you're doing it to yourself now. I can't. I can't support this. You're just been wildly irresponsible.
This movie is pretty realistic.
Sure.
That's kind of what I liked about it. Was like these are real characters like that have real like. I mean,
they're still like caricatures,
Sure.
They're still all turned up to 11, but they're based in reality. Like, I love the whole art teacher storyline just in general, because again, that this is a character that's, we talked about Seymour is kind of like a mirror father figure. Like, he's like an adult version of what Enid could be. And the art teacher, again, is, I think, Enid as an adult in the completely opposite direction, because the art teacher is very much, she is in her own world. Like, she only sees her own pretension and she doesn't see anything else. And she doesn't see this talent in Enid. That's, she's a talented cartoonist and artist, and she just dismisses all of her artwork as these cartoons are not they're not important like the stuff that we do, and especially like she focuses on the one blonde girl that is completely just pandering to the art teacher. It's like what is this, can you tell us about this art project, this tampon in a teacup? And then the girl is just completely floundering and just like coming up with whatever comes to her head. Is like, oh, it's a found object, and it represents the teacup represents traditional feminist, and the tampon it's an attack, and I don't know. And then
the art teacher speaks up.
Like, as a viewer, especially if you're a first-time viewer, it's like you expect the art teacher to like go off on her, but instead the art teacher is like, yes, exactly, this is important. This is, you get it, even though the girl was just trying to do the bare minimum.
But then
sorry, Travis, go ahead.
There's like a weird competition there between that girl and Enid, and they're both, Enid only. I had a real problem with the fact that Enid takes that, bit of advertising from Seymour, and brings it to her art class as, and then has to build
as an attack. Like,
and then
I love that too, because it's like she is like Enid is doing that. It's like, okay, you want this. I'm going to give you the absolute worst thing.
Yeah.
You know, Enid was trying to do that just to like prove a point, and then it like backfires
Yeah.
because the art teacher loved it so much. Because I mean, do you guys agree? Do you think that Enid was just doing this just to mess with the art teacher?
Definitely.
Yeah, and I struggled with that because it's like by doing this, by lying, you know, flat out, like presenting this thing as something you found, and if she presents the she almost does verbatim what the story that Seymour tells her about this art, you know.
Yeah.
She tells that to the class and presents it as if it's, you know, she found this, she found all this out. And then like this snowball gets bigger because this eventually becomes a huge piece at the art show at the end of the semester, and you know gets Seymour fired from his job. You know, it's like this one little decision that she makes here impacts, you know, Seymour's life in a big way. Yeah, I really had a hard time with Enid's choices throughout the movie. This was a big one. You know?
She doesn't think through anything though.
Yeah,
it's just
that's why I thought it was. I don't know if she was so aggressively going to like mess with her art teacher. I thought it was more like when she heard Seymour coming out with the whole like, she's like, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll bring it there." And then when she's actually questioned on it, I think she's almost a little taken aback by the fact that people are like so offended by it.
Yeah.
And he does have to kind of like, she's also kind of like mirroring what the girl said earlier, and she's just sort of like, she feels like she's a bit out of her depth when she's like, well, I think it's supposed to represent this and stuff as well, where I feel like she's almost floundering in that scene a little bit, because and then it's a bit like, oh, have I actually pushed this too far?
Right.
Almost, you know.
I think I'm in the same place you are, Niall. I think it was, I don't think her bringing that piece of art was an attack on the other student and the teacher. I think it was more, I just want to kind of get a laugh at taking this shocking thing to school, and then I'll go from there. I'll kind of figure it out as I go along, because you know, she, like, it occurs to her like, oh, it's a piece of found art. Like I almost thought she was going to take credit for like, I painted this, you know, this is my piece, that kind of thing. But you know, her just floundering and saying, it's found art, it's meant to, you know, be in your face and shocking, and then, you know, obviously it builds from there, and the teacher falls in love with it as an idea, you know. So
I still think it's her taking the piss out of this class. It's just she didn't, you know, obviously think through things, because that's all I knew about the character. She fucks with people. So it's like, so I definitely took it that way.
The big shout out though to another of the great character actors though is Alana Douglas there. Sure. Yeah, because she was it's weird too, because also you have like one of my namesakes, Thomas McGowan.
Yeah.
Is who's most famous for playing Kenny in Frasier, is Seymour's roommate. And then in an episode of Frasier, you find out you meet Kenny's wife, and she's played by Alana Douglas. So I was like, hey, it's a little bit of a quasi Ghost World. Well, not quasi. Well, I guess you never see them on screen together in this, but it is like a reunion. Yeah. And, I mean, almost in this season of Wednesday would have had a Ghost World reunion, in that Thora Birch was supposed to be in it, and Steve Buscemi is now the principal of the school in it. And then I don't know if you guys are aware of Thora Birch's career not in recent years.
Not really. I'm not.
Oh, it's strange. Like she seems to be quite a cagey person.
Okay.
And like she does work. She does pop up in things. She was in The Walking Dead within the last couple of years there.
Really?
Yeah, popped in for a couple of episodes. She does appear here, there, around stuff, but like there's a bit of sort of notoriety in that. So her dad is a guy, because she's called Thora Birch, and she has a brother called Bolt, because she's named Thora after Thor, the god of thunder, and then her brother's called Bolt, which I feel he got the raw end of the deal on that one, quite frankly. Their parents were both in Deep Throat, like the porn movie in the 70s. So his dad's a porn actor, or her dad's a porn actor. You know, no judgment. But then apparently, like when she made American Beauty, she was 16 and under the age of, like, you know, that would have been legal. And her dad advocated on like, no, she should be allowed to be completely nude in this scene. And which is, you know, one thing. And then in later films, apparently her dad would insist on being on set during everything, including sex scenes.
Okay.
Which you would think are like, oh, maybe he's just been protective. But it was like, no, apparently it was like people who worked on them were saying, no, he was like trying to get the angles better and to like make it like to like infer his porno knowledge. And apparently when the directors wouldn't go with it, he would threaten them. And then one of the actors who was working with Thora Birch, who was like in the middle of an intimate scene, said he looked up and her dad was giving him the thumbs up and stuff. And things like, and then apparently then she was on a production, she was in a West End version of Dracula, like a couple of years after Ghost World. Her dad was also there. And then with one of her co-stars was rubbing her back during the scene, her dad like went ballistic on him about like, what are you doing, touch my daughter like that? And then went ballistic on the director. And then they just had to fire her, basically. Get you out of here.
Yeah.
And the amount of different films where she's just been fired from. That seems to be a constant pattern of she was going to be in Election, like the Alexander Payne movie. She got fired.
Okay.
She was going to be in this, that, and the other. And then now Wednesday, well, she was supposed to be in season 1, the Christina Ricci character, which is like kismet though, because of course you cast Christina Ricci in that part. It was crazy they didn't do it in the first place. But apparently she left over what they said was a family matter, and then became creative differences, which means they're lying both times. And then Tim Burton, for whatever reason, gave her the olive branch of like, oh, you can come back for season 2 as a different part. And then she just like went, oh, I need to go visit a relative. And then she just flew across, like they're filming in Ireland. She flew back to America and then rang them to say, yeah, I'm not coming back. And so, and every interview you read with her, it's always, she's like, oh, it's just like Hollywood doesn't like me because I speak my mind, et cetera, et cetera. But she always seems so defensive about everything.
Yeah.
That you're like, I don't think I would like to work with this person either. It seems like you would have to be walking on eggshells around her a lot as well. And so, like it's the legacy of Thora Birch is a bit of a sort of strange one in that like she has said that she wants to be in mainstream stuff again. She wants to engage with people, but like she's not in Hocus Pocus 2. She got fired from Wednesday twice, I guess, or left it. So it's like, well, how much? And then I don't know what's going on with her and her dad. Like, that just seems really weird. It's it's a very odd setup. And I don't know if her dad was there during Ghost World with all the scenes with Buscemi or what was going on with that.
Yeah,
but like it's an odd like so I get why she doesn't work much is because people are probably like, sounds like a headache, man. Like it sounds like someone I just don't want to be involved with.
Yeah, huh?
But yeah,
I can't think of too many things I've seen her in, really. But I guess that makes sense. Like if she's
you remember Monkey Trouble, the movie about the little girl with the pet monkey from back in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Sorry, missed that one.
Yeah, I remember that stupid thing.
Purple people eater. You know, there was. She was like the little sister in Hocus Pocus. I think.
Yeah,
a lot of people that
I remember, and like American Beauty, obviously, but that would probably be like the last thing I would think of her,
Yeah, she's in the video for. So. I took a screenshot when I saw the names of all the different celebrities because it was just like, wow, this video did not age well at all. She's in the video for Limp Bizkit's Eat You Alive. The video is just Fred Durst like abducting her and then yelling at her in a chair, which is very strange. And then she's also in the video for Moby's We Are All Made of Stars, which is filled with celebrities. But the celebrities in the video include Kato Kalin, Vern Troyer, Corey Feldman, Gary Coleman, Dave Navarro, Sean Bean, out of there, Dominic Sween, Ron Jeremy, Tommy Lee, Richie Blackmore, Angeline, the lady with the billboard. She was just famous for having a billboard.
Yeah,
the Toxic Avenger, and Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD. And then Robert Evans is also in there. So it's like, whoa. Wow. It's weird that like in 2025, Sean Bean and the Toxic Avenger are the only two celebrities in that who are like still kind of relevant, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a big fan back in the day. So I have been keeping tabs on Thora Birch. So you might be able to tell. But
I mean, a lot of this movie is just
it's a lot of weird like little vignettes. There's so many scenes that
I assume that's coming from the books. Like they're kind of like piecing things together from different elements.
It's a series of vignettes. Like it's the like the whole that little scene of her the her having her own garage sale, which I guess is kind of during Seymour because then she sees him at a garage sale. like the whole thing about like, I'm not gonna let this pretentious boho asshole buy Gloomy Gus or whatever the toy's called. Is like that's a whole like she just like sort of dumps the the garage sale and goes off with Becca, and then the ends her like freaking out and coming back to make sure that toy's still there and stuff. Like that's a whole issue. And then this is like, a little 2-minute scene or whatever. And like her dyeing her hair, that's an issue.
Yeah. Okay.
But the thing in the book is just more like it's a thing that incidentally happens, whereas in the film it's like very much you can see that she is deliberately grinding the gears and progressing because it's Becca saying we have to look professional, we have to look adult, we have to look like we're proper yuppies, basically. And then the next shot is her dyeing her hair green.
Yeah. So or like with the garage sale, it's how am I need money so that we can get stuff for the apartment. But then once it comes to having a garage sale of her own, it's like I think it is mirroring what the roommate did by saying, "Oh, you can't buy that. That's not for sale." So the first opportunity she has to sell something, she says, "No, you can't buy that. That's not for sale." And then she doubles down because then the lady wants to buy a dress, and again she sabotages that one. Like it costs $500 because it's sentimental or whatever. It's like so she keeps self-sabotaging every chance she gets throughout the movie, and it's all like a big part of it is she's scared to move forward, whereas Becca is like she finds the place to live, she gets the job so she can afford it, all this stuff, whereas Enid is just every opportunity she shoots everything down and makes sure that she can't do her part, basically. So
she doesn't appreciate that cool ironing board that just comes out.
Right.
Like even back in the day, I was like, that is pretty cool, actually. Yeah. That's so handy. Like, and now I'm an adult. Like the ironing boards themselves are a pain in the ass. You have to like fold them up and put them away somewhere. If one just comes out of the wall, it's incredible. Yeah. It's
but there was one like little joke moment. And it's kind of one of these scenes that is almost throwaway, but they go to a movie, a blockbuster essentially. But it's like, it's kind of advertised as like, we have films here. We don't, it's not a place to go get, your latest Schwarzenegger action movie or whatever. It's a film house. And I think it's an interesting like reverse joke because the customer comes up to the counter and says, I want, do you have 8.5 weeks? And then it's the employee who would typically be the film snob asshole. Yeah. The employee is like, 9.5 weeks with Mickey Rourke. It's like, I like that there's a switch there. It's usually the customer who's, a complete knob and would be wanting, the smutty thriller. And the employee would be the one like, this is,
has that actor too. It's Patrick Fabian. You call that guy? He pops up on a bunch of stuff. Yeah. But I love his delivery of just like, the 9.5 weeks with Mickey Rourke and Kim Basinger. That would be in the our erotic drama section. Like a little cheeky smiley.
Travis shot fired. I am that knob at the video store getting Demolition Man for the first time.
And that's we're all that.
I just love little through lines as well. Like I guess it's just a subtle thing in the fact that like when Enid presents her like art pad drawing book to the art class, it's just like, well, what's this? Like it's like, it's a picture of Don Knotts. Like, why? It's like, I just like Don Knotts, and then you can't like Buscemi looks like Don Knotts. Like it can't be coincidental. And then the other side of it's like, now the book is full of Seymour, which is. It's really, it's weird because that scene in some ways you'd be like, the way she comes in, she's like, you're pretty doped up. Some people might be like, he's just imagining that. She didn't actually visit them in the hospital. But I'm glad that scene's there though, because it needs like something a bit more heartwarming at the end that like she is like, no, you're like my hero and stuff. Because if it was just like that happened and then she just bailed, that'd be like, wow, that is so harsh, But I do know some people have very cynical readings of the film, but I do like choose. I'm an optimist in my interpretations of things, so I do believe she's definitely there in that scene. And then like, what do you guys make of like the ending? Because it has this very vague, sort of like almost in a classic art house pretentious movie kind of way, of the sort of symbolic, what does it all mean kind of ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have my read, but I'm curious to hear your guys' first.
I'll let you go
My
first.
my read on her, she talks about she has this fantasy of like just leaving and not saying a word. It's very much that Goodwill Hunting sort of moment.
Hmm.
But in that, it feels, like I like that ending for Goodwill Hunting. In this, I hated that ending, and I realized like there's kind of a personal reason for that. She ghosts everybody. She just leaves
Mm.
town, and that sort of happened to me. Like my high school best friend, the guy that I was best friends with through high school and maybe part of middle school, whatever, basically did this. Like he and I, after high school, we stayed, friends, we hung out, but then like I was starting school, I was, with, you know, now my wife, he had a girlfriend, like we started drifting apart, and then it was like or a few months later, I went to a mutual friend's wedding. He was there, and then I mean, yeah, through that friend, I found like he just left. He moved town, moved in with his girlfriend, and haven't spoken to him since. And it was like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I had a reaction to watching this. It was like this piece of shit just completely abandoned everyone and just ran away and didn't say anything. And it just felt like, it brought up a lot of feelings of like, like if you do that, if you just ghost everybody in your life, like fuck you, So
Mm. Mm.
All
so that's
right.
my feeling on this. So thank you guys for helping me like get through this, and the talking cure is working.
I'm glad you went first.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was probably tainted by the old man at the bus stop.
Mm,
So I took it two ways. Either it's a symbolism
yeah.
of transitioning life phases. So she's going to grow up now by getting on that bus, whereas he's dying.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or she offed herself and she died too.
Oh.
Mm.
So
Mm.
one of those two, I have no idea.
Mm.
Yeah, especially the first time, I thought that it was like very heavy-handed symbolism
Mm.
that and suicide, like, and watching it now,
Yeah.
I mean, I still think that I do kind of like it a bit more that it's more open-ended and
Yeah.
not quite as heavy-handed as I thought, because as I've heard more people's perspectives, not
Yeah.
everybody comes directly to the suicide metaphor, but
Mm.
Yeah.
I do think that the Norman, him finally getting on the bus, I kind of feel like that the bus is actually an ambulance and that Norman passed away.
Mm.
Oh,
Mm.
okay.
And this is just Enid seeing this as a life transition. And
Huh.
then her getting on the bus is again her committing suicide, especially the way that everything goes, because
Mhm.
at the end of the movie, like everything is just falling apart
Mm.
in
Yeah.
Enid's life. She's drifting away from Becca. She's not getting a job. She lost her art school scholarship. She didn't really lose Seymour, but she took the Seymour relationship to a place that I don't think she really wanted it to go that direction. So
Mm.
I think in her mind that she's kind of lost that Seymour. She lost the Seymour friendship because
Mm.
Yeah.
she took it to a sexual place, and then
Yeah.
once it's gone there, it can never go back to just platonic.
Mm.
And so in that way, she's kind of lost that Seymour friendship, and she doesn't really, and she's lost her father to Maxine, which was, she's
Yeah.
been worried about the entire movie as, as someone that she hates,
Mm-hmm.
even though Maxine is giving her or tried to give her the computer job, again, the very normal job. She's like losing her individuality. And
Yeah.
so I really think that the her getting on the bus is a metaphor for suicide.
Mm.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm. See, I never took the suicide
No,
metaphor. Like I
I
know,
didn't.
yeah.
I didn't
I see
Yeah.
consider it either.
people.
I think I tend to watch these, with a movie like this. I wasn't thinking any sort of, metaphor, symbolism, that kind of stuff. So I was
Yeah.
watching it very literally, I guess.
Okay.
Mm. I think I took like because everything with Norman, I was just like, because he is his own person. Like people are telling him like, this bus ain't coming, man.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And then eventually, what if he sticks to his guns, and eventually the bus he does get out of his, he isn't waiting anymore. He is moving on. And so I always took it to mean that, like, because when Enid's going, she's in a very distinct sort of red outfit and stuff like that, and she's like, pack your bags and
I
stuff
forgot
like
that too. She's wearing a red outfit.
Yeah, but I just took it to mean that, like, no, she whatever, she's moving on to her, and she's finally now ready to like move on to the next transitional phase, just doing it in her very distinct own way, whatever that might. We don't know what it is, but she's ready to take the plunge of doing something else. She's finally like getting herself out of her rut. I don't think I'm even as so I wasn't burned like you, Travis. So I'm like, she said goodbye to everyone. Like that scene with her and Becca on the bench, that is the goodbye. I think she has quite a nice goodbye. That scene of her showing Seymour all the pictures of him is like, that's a nice goodbye. Like that's as nice a goodbye as they could have. And then her dad's just like, he's barely there anyway. So who else is here?
Yeah. I like that she does interact with them before she leaves, but it's still, they just assume, oh, I'll call you tomorrow and I'll see you. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a little too like she's running away at the end of this movie, and I take it as she thinks I'll go to a new town and then I can start my life there. Like that's, I do like, I see with Norman, I definitely get the feeling, for as real world as this movie seems, he definitely feels like he gets on this bus because it's like a sort of mystical, like end of his life journey, but it's weird. Like when she gets on the bus, I take it as a real like thing where she's going to another town to start a new life. So
that's why I said he tainted my view of the ending, because it seemed mystical.
Yeah,
so I thought that's where I came with the different metaphors of what that bus was.
Yeah, and also like Norman was the one. It's like her life is falling apart, and then she said Norman is the one constant that I have in my life. I can always count on Norman being there, sitting on the bench, and then
he leaves.
And then he leaves.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, that's the last straw. And again, like like I said, I forgot the fact that she's wearing this, very bright blood red dress.
But I just don't think tonally it's going that. Like I know her life's sort of in tatters, but it doesn't feel like suicide's the only option here. It just feels like, no, she's just like, now everything has room, but she's like, I'm ready to. Like again, you could take Norman as, because again he's like a very distinct, like he's one of the weirdos around the town, and she's like, yeah, he's the one thing I can depend on. It's symbolic of her own individuality, or her sticking to her own way of looking at things and stuff like that. But just like he is, and then she's like, well, at least I have that, so I'm holding on to it. And then
I think even the music at that point, the ending music, it's very dark. It's and foreboding. I think, because I think if she was like just running away to go start a new life, the music would be a bit more hopeful.
I still just took it to mean that she was just like, no, she's finally. It is a kind of like she's just moving. She still doesn't know what she's moving on to, but it's just
and it's sad in a way, because you're leaving behind childhood or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes a good ending sometimes, is just everyone looks at it differently.
It's also, you can say it's too much of a mystical kind of bus, but also it's just like it's showing up at a weird time, because it seems like it's kind of like the twilight hours. So it could be like, no, Norman just knew that, like, no, there is a bus that shows up here. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, now she's like, oh wait, no, there is, like,
the bus is always there at like 7:35 or something.
It's like, maybe I'll get that bus. It turns out there is a bus out of this town. Who knew?
Yeah, we're not sure how prevalent the internet is yet in this town. So
the bus stops there, once every 3 months.
And he just waits there just in case.
There's a weird button on the Seymour story where we see him in therapy, and I'm like, okay, that's nice. I'm glad he gets this therapy sort of ending.
That's the worst therapist ever.
But then that scene gets its own button, because as she's closing the door, she rolls her eyes, and his Seymour's mom starts nagging him about whatever. And it's like, God damn, he can't even have like we see the therapist rolling her eyes, and that tells me she doesn't care. He's not gonna get good therapy, and that's Niall, I know you know who that is. That's the Penguin's mom from Batman Returns.
Of course, yeah.
But
of course. Jesus. You guys are sick.
Yeah. Well, here's one for Bubbawheat. Weird Al is the weird insurance guy in Fight Club who's like, the retainer is wrapped around the headrest. It's very modern art, like
as your Buzzington.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And then I know the guy in the guy in the wheelchair comes in.
Oh, of course.
That's Crispin Glover's dad.
Yeah, Bruce Glover. Yeah. We saw him, Patrick, in Diamonds Are Forever. He's either Mr. Wint or Mr. Kidd, the two weird henchmen in Diamonds Are Forever. Yeah.
Just realized that I am a Josh surrounded by a bunch of Seymours.
Yeah.
I'm just going through my normal Quick Mart job.
Yeah.
You guys are at your record collecting conventions and know all these obscure facts.
Josh has in this movie, Josh has my favorite line delivery, and it's when I think they're leaving their interaction first time they spy on Seymour coming to the diner. They go to leave, and Seymour drives away and nearly gets into a car accident. And Enid says, "Let's follow him. Don't you want to see where he goes?" And Josh just deadpans says, "No." It's my favorite delivery because he's just like, he is pure, and Josh is pure as the driven snow. He is so decent that it doesn't occur to him to like, let's follow this guy and see how pathetic his life is. He's he doesn't care. He's not interested. And shout out to Brad Renfro, who I thought killed himself really close. I thought this was the era where he killed. It was like 7 years later in 2008 that he took his own life. But like I thought this was like one of his last sort of performances, and he is like, he felt real in this movie because he seemed very depressed and very like, I don't know. That was a hell of an acting role for this tiny little part,
Josh does feature in the book also a bit more. There's more of a kind of love triangle going on between.
That makes sense,
But yeah, Brad, like I always remember Brad Renfro distinctly because there's a great film magazine called Hot Dog in the UK, and I remember like it was probably pretty shortly after this came out. They did an interview with Brad Renfro, and like Hot Dog was like, it didn't last that long because I think a lot of the things they focused on turned out to be a bit too niche maybe for the major market, and towards the end they started putting on like almost a kind of weird like I think Ghost World will comment on, where it went from being about like niche things in nerdy movies to being like, here's Alicia Cuthbert wearing lingerie, throw that in the cover, like that, that'll get people flicking these pages,
right?
But I remember like at one point they did an interview with Tommy Lee Jones for Men in Black 2, and the headline was Hollywood's grumpiest git, and the whole interview was them just going like, why was he such an asshole to us? He's a horrible man, and just calling out Tommy Lee Jones for like mistreating them during the interview. And their interview with Brad Renfro was like, it's so melancholy because they're like, this guy is going to die. Like they're saying like it was years before it happened, but like we can see from talking to him, he's very, very troubled. He desperately needs help. And we're saying this guy's not going to be around for much longer if he keeps up like this. And I remember one of the details was because they were at like, it was after I think he tried to steal a yacht and he got arrested for it.
Okay.
And he himself was like, he was fully aware, like he was drunk and stuff during the interview, but he's like fully aware, like this is going to be my legacy. Is the idiot who tried to steal the yacht. And then apparently Ozzy Osbourne was in the restaurant they were interviewing in, and he did a proper Wayne's World like, we're not worthy to Ozzy. And apparently they like the interviewer said like Ozzy was just looking at him kind of panicked, and it kind of went like, I've been there, man, and they kind of walked away because he could recognize him as being like a guy off his head basically on drinking drugs and stuff. And then I always remember just the really melancholy tone of that interview have been like, this guy's not going to be around for much longer. Someone close to him needs to step in here. And then now that is like, Brad Renfro, like no age, died. And it was just like, he's just one of those guys, like, just his legacy's just drifted to the wind now. He's just like, he's just gone. Although I was always a bit curious. I think we mentioned him during Batman Forever, because like classically contentious issue of them casting Chris O'Donnell, like 37-year-old man, as Robin. And Joel Schumacher had just come off The Client, where he discovered Brad Renfro, who was a little kid. He was like 13, 14 by the time Batman Forever would have been being made. And it's like, there's your Robin right there, man. What are you doing? But, maybe they were just like, you can't put him in the rubber suit with the nipples. Like, it'd just be too weird to have a little kid like that. So we got to go for sexy rather than, comics accurate or whatever. But good shout out to Brad Renfro, because he's just one of the ones we lost along the way, unfortunately.
Did you guys stick around for the post-credit scene?
I didn't the first time I watched it. The second time I did, just because I was still writing notes while the credits were playing. It's just a weird little bonus scene.
Is that the first
every comic book movie's got that, so I always have to
I was gonna ask, is that the first, like, they beat Marvel, so like, is that the first post-credit scene in a comic book movie?
No, we've had a couple of them. But this one, if you haven't watched the movie, it's a kind of an outtake of the fight scene that when Seymour comes into the convenience store to confront Josh and starts a scuffle, tries to break some stuff in the store, and it, like, Dougie swoops in for the hero moment and challenges Seymour, and they have a little fight. And then the postscript is Seymour kind of getting the upper hand and just winning the fight, and then he walks out the door like, mess with me, motherfuckers. I don't know.
Oh, I still wish now that my big wish for James Gunn's Superman would have been the post-credits scene. Should have been someone coming to, like, Superman, we've got devastating news, and then it's him, like, reading the newspaper, and it's just like, mole men spotted, and then there's the big dun dun dun. It's like, we're going back, baby, we're going away back. But then the Fantastic Four did have mole men, and it's like, I guess we can't do that now. Good freaking Paul Walter Hauser in there doing the mole man. Well. But I don't know if you like Ghost World still, like, I don't know about you guys, if you're still like, I'll never watch this film again in my life, but I'm like, it's still great, it's still sad.
I mean, let's definitely do our sort of wrap up stuff. We typically do the most heroic and most villainous. This is one of those that doesn't really fit with that mold, but I do still have them. So if you guys do as well, let's do most heroic.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I just finally know what I have to do.
That keeps us honest.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Gives us strength.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
Makes us noble.
And I know in my heart that it's right.
Hey, you guys already did it. My man Dougie with the gunshots.
Yeah, that's mine. Dougie swooping in to save, the convenience store.
I mean, come on.
I think for me, I would say most heroic is just Enid building this friendship with Seymour. Just that as a whole, even though it doesn't end well, I do think that she just meets this lonely guy and she connects with him and builds this, like, this true friendship between these two characters. I think that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah, that's nice.
It was going well for a little bit.
That's why Enid now is most villainous as well.
Right. We'll get there. Anybody else have a hero moment? Niall?
I would just say, though, in a low-key heroic thing, is just Seymour, because he's a guy who's still, like, so many things going wrong in his life, and he's not got anything going for him ostensibly, but he's still showing up, and he's still like, I'm just, he's out there still trying to live his life, basically, and just, like, getting on with things, The fact too, when they point out, like, when everything happens with the fake blind date or the fake meeting up, they're just like, he doesn't even seem like he's all that bummed out about it. Like, he's just like, just get on with my life. So for people who are going, getting ground down, but still are getting up every day and going about their business, it's a low key heroism, but it's still there, I'd say.
Nice. Let's switch it over to most villainous.
This planet, these people, they are nothing to me.
You were made to be ruled.
The universe is power. You unstoppable power. Come to me. son of Jor-El, kneel before Zod. And I am that force. I am that power.
In the end, you will always kneel.
Kneel before your master.
Mine's easy. I mean, pick a choice that Enid makes in this movie, and it's pretty much. I mean, I guess for me the worst one, or the one I felt most strongly about, I guess, is like presenting that Cook's Chicken art, advertising as her own, and then that snowballs into, affecting Seymour's life. Like, it just felt like you could have avoided this. Clearly, you're a talented enough artist. You could present something else, to this art class. You don't have to bring in this thing that you've lied about, and that's I think that's mine.
I think mine most villainous will be her manager at the cinema, because he's just part of the problem. This guy, like his whole thing was like, oh, you have to like basically upsell everybody. You have to promote the bigger sizes, and then every time she questions anything, it's like it's not optional. Like he's got the haircut of an asshole. He looks like a douche.
Yeah.
And he just seems like his whole thing is just like he's part of the problem, basically, in terms of like, is there an obesity epidemic, and is it damaging the country's health? I'll still sell them more of this heavily salted artificial popcorn and stuff. So that guy, he's the villain.
I'm gonna go with the wheelchair person in the coffee shop.
Okay,
because that's pretty messed up. They can walk for real life. So I thought it was like a nice little touch that they were talking about the weirdos there, and she's like, yeah, but that guy can walk, and like it's just
and he just gets free coffee by literally Googling the answers, right in front of
I feel like he would have been a Batman villain, like wheelchair man or something. I don't know if that condiment thing exists. I mean, why not?
Plus, I like to keep the headcanon that he is in fact Bruce Glover's character from Diamonds Are Forever, and he's just like, he needs that wheelchair some of the times because Bond really did a number on him.
Right.
At the end of
Yeah, I think mine is the Enid move of the initial meeting with Seymour of doing setting up that's making him get stood up. That is pretty wrong.
Yeah,
it is pretty bad, but like I appreciate that it's like it seems to come from a place of complete immaturity, because they're just like, they don't think about the actual person, then like what it you can feel it in the scene when it's blasting that really like happy pop song, and they're all just sat there and they're just like, this is unbearable, like I can't believe he's still here and stuff. Like you can see that they feel devastated by it. And then it does, the guilt does lead to her becoming Seymour's friend. So it's like, at least they give you that. It's not like a thing they just drop and like, you're like, oh, I guess they're just assholes. It's like, oh, I guess she learns from it to be like, yeah, you can't just like mess with people like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, right on. What would you, I feel like I know what some of the ratings will be. But what overall thoughts and ratings? Whoever wants to go first.
I mean, mine's will be the shortest and simplest. I think it's still like I think it's a 10 out of 10. I think everyone should watch this at least once in their life, or at least once at different stages of their life, to sort of see how the movie grows with you. And then great performances, great soundtrack. It looks really good as well. So like the colors to it are so vibrant and stuff as well. It just has the costuming, everything about it is just like, it's really, really terrific. And in fact, it does speak to me and so many of it, and to several people I know, like my co-host on Batman, John, wanted to do Ghost World minute by minute.
Wow.
So and I was a bit like, I like it, I don't know if we can get enough use of it in that way, man. but yeah, I say I couldn't praise this film more, basically.
Right on. I figured you'd be a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm pretty high up there as well. I still love it kind of start to finish. It's quirky, it's funny, it's melancholy, but in a good way. I don't know. I struggle. I'm not someone that's stingy with 5 out of 5 movies, but I think I give this one 4.5.
You got the Hank Hill thing there going like, give them something to work towards.
Right.
I mean, I was around the top. I was at 4. I kind of get over Enid pretty quick, unfortunately. But I think that's more because I came into this as an old man. I probably would have had this higher if I had seen it earlier. I could appreciate, what it's going for and all that. It's definitely not like, let's watch this again. But in a couple of years, I'd probably watch it again. I think it can be a bit heavy-handed with kind of themes and teenage angst because right off the gate, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be angsty. And then, and it is kind of a bummer, but I'm not gonna knock that. I mean, it's going for kind of that tone, but it's not like, I don't know, some of the sequences I could have done without. It was just kind of mood setting. That I was like, yeah, I get it. You don't need to keep hitting me over the head with it. And then just, I don't know. I think I would have liked it a lot more had I seen it earlier. I think at this stage of my life, I'm just I saw a lot of the stuff coming just from experience with other movies. So it didn't have that same hit as maybe if I was younger and saw it for the first time. So
and also too, at the time too, because it's basically a teen movie. But it's coming out in the American Pie era. So everything was get over it and all that, all the teen sex comedies, Euro Trip and stuff. That's what this was amongst. So it really stood out as being this is a proper film actually about adolescence and growing up instead of just Stifler's mom's hot, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, so I kind of lumped this in knowing the timing. It was a little later. I saw, Napoleon Dynamite, Saved. I saw those that were a little later, a few years later, maybe a year later, I think, for those. So I had an indie, angsty kind of era going on. I just never got to Ghost World. That was probably on a 9/11 doom spiral or something. So there's a resurgence.
I think it's funny that you mentioned. I think it's funny that you mentioned Euro Trip because I'm actually going to be talking about that in a couple hours.
Nice. That is a funny movie. I mean, it's
it's that much just isn't Euro Trip great? Me trying I feel bad. I bad mouth Euro Trip, but this one is the go to your point there, Patrick. Just to quote one of this movie stars David Cross as Tobias Fuque and saying, "I don't want to blame it all on 9/11, but it certainly didn't help."
Because I looked it up and I saw it came out a couple days after that. And I'm I mean, not that I would have seen it either way, but I was definitely not in a good place at that time. I wasn't in the mood for a bummer of a movie.
Oh, it was a different. But I remember talking about that was the problem with Road to Perdition was that was Tom Hanks immediately post 9/11, and it was just America doesn't want this Tom Hanks. We need proper Tom Hanks right now. That's hey, what if I was a hitman? No. We want cuddly. Damn it, get back to that.
We need Woody.
The terminal comes. It's no, that's too cuddly. Get out of here.
What about you, Travis?
I liked this movie quite a bit. I feel like I was prepared to come down very hard on the movie, but not not on the movie itself. I really disliked Enid, so it was weird watching a movie and throughout the movie just being really upset and disgusted by a character, but then overall the movie is it's really well made, well told, really well acted, so it was strange to have a movie that I really liked but hated the main character.
That's what was cool. Weird too that because Terry Zwigoff's not done many features. He did his big thing is that he was his friends with Robert Crumb, guy who created Fritz the Cat and stuff. Made a documentary about him back in the mid 90s, and I say he's 50 when it comes to this. And then his character is the main character of Enid being so unlikable and is well, I like her, but I see where you're coming from, Travis. She's not ultra sympathetic a lot of the time.
But again, Patrick said, if I had seen this when you saw this, it would grow with me. It's kind of when you mentioned watching Daria in the pandemic. We rewatched, Gilmore Girls, and it's weird to watch Gilmore Girls because as an adult, the Lorelai character, the adult character, is such a kid, is so self-sabotaging. So it's watching her now from an adult perspective, it's like, you idiot, just grow up and,
Yeah.
So
Gilmore Girls is like, the more times you watch it, you're like, because you're so charmed by them the first time, and then the second time you're like, oh, they're kind of not good people though a lot of the time.
Right.
Like well, Max Medina did not deserve that. Like what the hell did he ever do to have that coming?
Yeah.
But I just find it interesting though, because Terry Zwigoff only made like 3 features,
Okay.
like fictional ones. The next one was Bad Santa, which is like such a wild swing, but also focuses on like a really heavily like troubled, not entirely sympathetic character as well. So
interesting.
And Billy Bob Thornton in Bad Santa was like, has been part of the protagonist. This guy will have, and then also him and Daniel Clowes reteamed for a movie called Art School Confidential, which I remember seeing when it came out.
Heard of
and it was
it.
just like
Jason Schwartzman.
I think so. Yeah. It might actually. I think it might be based on a comic, so you guys maybe could potentially just have it as a thing there. But
I own it.
Oh, there you go. But,
even though I didn't like it, I didn't like it nearly as much as Ghost World.
I think one of the issues I had with the movie is that turn towards the end, where Seymour and Enid hook up, because it definitely obviously it was like, I didn't want that to happen, because the whole idea, the whole premise of like, here's an older guy and a young woman, and it just felt creepy. I was kind of like, okay, I like that they're friends. I hope it doesn't go where you expect it to go. And then they hook up, and then it's like, that's when I started wondering, like, it was interesting you said that Seymour is a character made up by Terry Zwigoff, because it's like, it's very male fantasy. It's like, here's Seymour who gets this incredible, very attractive, 18-year-old, woman. And he also has Dana, who's a very attractive, like age appropriate woman, and it's like, oh, now I have these 2 women. It's like, it's very like, this guy is having like,
he's having like the Steve Buscemi and like the Homer hammock of like the chop dig like the image of the 2 wives.
Like it's very
or again, it reminded me of Clerks 2. Randall's line, like, why are there always 2 girls fighting over you hideous fucking chud?
It's very much that. It's like, this movie is while it's very like adolescent teen girl focused, it's definitely not made for, like it's if it's written by Daniel Clowes and directed by him, it's just like, I don't know. It's a weird sort of recipe for a movie, I guess. But
and one bit of trivia that I almost forgot about that I like, but it feels like it's their kind of concession to feminism, is that all of Enid's artwork was drawn by R. Crumb's daughter.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what was your rating?
Oh, 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah. I liked it. Okay. I'm not gonna want to watch it a bunch. No. But yeah.
So that's 3.5, starring Mickey Rourke and Kim Basinger. That's in our erotic drama section.
Erotic.
Nice.
Yes.
I mean, overall, I totaled up our ratings.
That's a tough one.
4.25. Mitts.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, very well made and very well acted, and
every once in a while I like a movie where I just don't like the people. It's just interesting to watch a movie like that every now and then, because I didn't really like anyone.
Josh
is pure. He's a pure soul.
Josh is like a nothing like character, so he's just like background.
Josh is going to be Seymour in 10 years.
I don't even know if he'll be that.
Like
honestly. Like, he's just going to be an Uber driver.
Well, yeah. Bubbawheat, Niall, why don't you guys hit your sort of your plugs, let people know what you got going on?
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, you go right ahead, Bubbawheat.
Okay. I have my main podcast, It's Time to Rewind. I break down time loops in movies and TV. I break them down one loop at a time. Coming up on September 18th, I'm going to be starting the 7th season of that show, where I'm breaking down Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You into 12 episodes each. One for each loop. Those are fun. I've come into them fairly recently, but I really enjoyed them, and that's looking to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to start recording that soon and releasing that. And I also have a brand new podcast that, as of recording, just came out with its first episode. It's called Anthological. It's an anthology podcast about anthology movies, and similar to like the Movies by Minutes group project. Each episode has a completely different hosting team.
Okay.
And we are breaking down anthology movies one segment at a time. And the first season is Fantasia.
Oh.
And so I've got it, a bunch of different podcasters that are tackling each segment of Fantasia, including the Meet the Soundtrack. I'm giving that its own episode, and I'm already in production on the second season, which will be Creepshow. So I'm kind of going to different genres of anthology movies.
Well, that's cool.
Trying to run the gamut.
I like that. I always think horror anthology, so I don't think outside of that when I think anthology. So that's kind of cool.
I just always think of like the Jim Jarmusch, like that kind of like Night on Earth, and they call the mumblecore sort of no wave movies, that kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah, that's interesting.
Very cool.
I like that.
Oh, but I feel like every time I'm on here, I'm almost like, we're getting ready for Batman at 66.
I was going to ask, where you're at with that. If you want to, I don't know if you want to say where you're at in that project.
We're just banking episodes at the minute, and we're it'll just be. I think again, it's just because like I've moved jobs recently and just sort of getting into like the new this will be the new sort of rota of what when we can do stuff and things like that. But now Batman at 66, which we're breaking down the Batman movies 1 minute at a time, and we're now doing the Adam West movie. That'll be coming out before, I promise, before the end of the year. We'll definitely have it. We're definitely deep into it at that point. But currently, me and John at Batman, our current project is Peace Girl Summer, where because Peacemaker season 2 and Wednesday season 2 are kind of coming out around the same time. We decided to do what the hell, we'll just review both shows at kind of like the same time, basically. Yeah. So we're just if anyone wants to hop in for that, we've got that going on. The still like shockingly good Peacemaker TV show, which is just a thing I never thought was going to be like, when they announced it, I was like, why? And then you watch it and you're like, wow, this thing is actually like a really, really solid like work of art almost. And so it gets so thematically deep and stuff. And then Wednesday, we're just Tim Burton doing Tim Burton stuff. And it's enjoyable for what it is. You can come and listen to just me and John talking about that for Peace Girl Summer. We're swapping back. We're getting to the point now where we're just swapping back and forth between which one are we covering this week. Sometimes we have 2 episodes a week. It's all over the place, but there was talk of trying to join the 2 episodes together, but then they thought people might not like that because then they would have to like zoom through so much of a show they weren't interested in or something. So but that's our current project. And then after that, once that's like, well, we'll start airing Batman at 66 before Peace Girl Summer is completed, because it's going on until like October or something. But that'll be coming then straight after. So we're all. And then in the meantime, if you don't, neither of those things sound appealing, but you do like Batman, we do have like the 89 movie up through 1997, Batman and Robin, like available, including Mask of the Phantasm, in there, all covered by minute so far. So that's all there.
Oh yeah. Speaking of, like, earlier in the show, we talked a lot about Arrested Development. Patrick and I we have a movie date later. We're going to go watch the 35th anniversary of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So
I'm incredibly jealous because it did not get re-released over here.
Yeah.
I got depressed because I saw it in the theaters 35 years ago. And I was like, oh, geez, it was 35 years ago.
Yeah.
God.
So that's something to look forward to for us. But that's probably going to do it for this episode.
Yep, time to hop on that mysterious bus.
That's right.
What does that mean?
Means we'll talk about From Hell next time. Yes, we should say. So
there will be another episode. Okay.
Well, yes, and it will be From Hell. But until then, stay safe out there, citizens.
Inspector, I know your reputation for making brilliant guesses that turn out to be right. Someone told me you claim to dream the answers.
Sometime this evening, a bagtail was murdered in George Yard.
That doesn't sound much out of the ordinary.
It was the way she was done, Inspector. It was the way that she was done that cries out for a man of your talent.
He can foresee the victims.
I saw her. I saw her face.
Your vision's about me.
Most definitely.
You know, they used to burn men like you alive.
He could sense the suspects.
It must be someone with money.
And how do you know that?
This ain't killing for profit. This is ritual.
But for an inspector in charge of the world's most infamous investigations,
he's punishing them. I want double shifts within this area.
We'll have mayhem on the streets.
I believe this was done by someone with a working knowledge of dissection.
An educated man, that's preposterous.
The last thing he expected.
I want you and your friends off the streets until I can sort this thing out.
I do trust you.
Was to get close to someone who would be next.
Jack the Ripper's not finished.
Where is he?
I want him.
One day, men will look back and say that I gave birth to the 20th century.
You're not going to see the 20th century.